When we look at the world we live in, we see that things aren't going well and everything is turned upside down. Urgent questions arise within us.
¿Qué puedo hacer yo?
What can I do in the face of so much pain and suffering? Will doing my little part to make a difference in the world really do any good? Or will it be better to play dumb and just try to get through it the best I can? These questions bring us face to face with ourselves, and the future of the world will depend on how we answer them. One of the most fascinating characters in the Old Testament is the king and prophet David, who defeated Goliath, the giant, with a stone and a slingshot. Israel was at war with the Philistines. Goliath proposed a challenge to the Israelite army. If anyone fought against him and emerged victorious, they will win the war. Otherwise, they will lose and be enslaved. None of the soldiers from Israel accepted the challenge. They weren't stupid. They were prepared to fight, but not against a giant. David was very young at the time. He was at the military camp bringing food to his brothers. He heard Goliath's challenge and decided to confront him. He was a shepherd, not a soldier. He hadn't mastered the sword, but rather the slingshot. He knew that he was skilled at using this weapon and took advantage of it. He gathered 5 stones from the string and refused to wear armor. David was afraid, but very brave. He had faith and was convinced that he could defeat the giant. David's triumph over Goliath is a powerful symbol of the value of determination and iron will in the face of an enemy who appears to be vastly superior. All of us will face enemies like that throughout our lives. During the dictatorship of Rafael Leonidas Trujillo, the Dominican Republic endured one of the bloodiest periods of tyranny in 20th century Latin America. For 30 years, civil liberties were non-existent and there were constant violations of human rights. Anyone who disagreed with the regime could be imprisoned and tortured and was usually executed. Casualties during the Trujillo era rose to more than 50,000 people. One day, when I was just a boy, I stood in a long line with my father and grandmother under the beating sun, waiting to visit my uncle, a pediatrician, Dr. Jose Tallaj. He was imprisoned in the Cárcel de la 40, a clandestine center of repression and torture. Indignant at the situation the country was experiencing, my Uncle Jose decided to become part of the 14th of June movement. That we live here together. As you know, in the back of this house, there is a coal storeroom. But in the other side, that goes to the other side of the street, there was a print place owned by my uncle. What he does, he used to be print things against Trujillo and open that door to the coal area and bring it to this side and distribute to kids and young kids through the city, all against Trujillo. At some point, all these kids were killed by Trujillo, and my uncle was in jail. The only thing that saved my uncle's life is because he was taking care of the higher people, including the generals, who were close to Trujillo, and they were the ones who saved their life. My uncle survived his captivity, and years later, published a book in which he gives a first-hand account of the abuse and torture he and his comrades endured. I'll never forget the first time I saw the marks on his back from the lashing he received in the jail. The scars of his fight for freedom were permanently marked in my memory, raising a number of questions within me.
¿Por qué existe el mal en el mundo? Porque hay personas que en lugar de usar las manos para sanar y salvar vidas, las usan para herir y matar. ¿Por qué existen instrumentos de tortura para hacer todo lo contrario, para hacer sufrir y matar?
My uncle made use of medical instruments to cure his patients and alleviate their pain. He embodied love for his fellow human beings and nurtured his Catholic faith in the Crucilos in Christianity. This is the picture of my uncle. This is exactly where, in this place, this is the place he practiced. He took care of millions of children here that he saw just for sometimes for $1 of doing exchange, whoever you produce in your farm, because from every farm, every countryside area and the city, they were coming here to see him. Besides that, he was doing Pueblo Nuevo consults totally free. And he took care of them. They had to put it in bed to get an IV, whatever they need. He was doing that for free.
Él es el médico pediatra de todos los niños de aquí. Aquí me trajeron y me salvan la vida muchas veces.
My uncle's fight against the Tira de Trujillo, one of the most valuable lessons he taught me, and one that inspired me in every battle I have faced throughout my life. We live in an era marked by great tyranny, often disguised in a suit and tie. For example, public health systems have been designed to enrich and serve the financial interests of big corporations instead of serving the people. I've always said that healthcare began with a magician and someone who was sick. So many people came to see him that he needed an assistant, which we call a nurse. And more people were kept coming, so they need a place, which they call a clinic. It didn't start with the building, which is where most of the business begin, because healthcare isn't a business. Healthcare begins with the relationship between a doctor and a patient. This is why the most important battle I have faced throughout my life has been to re-examine the practice of the family doctor. It is the antidote to the dictatorship of multinational healthcare corporations. But while we maintain a system in which we spend millions and millions of dollars, not to save lives, but to save a building and what goes on inside the building, our fight will be like that of David and Goliath. But be careful. If we help a patient with diabetes who doesn't have proteinuria, that patient will no longer need dialysis. And this goes against those who want to make money by keeping people sick so they remain on dialysis, selling fluids. If we help people with low hemoglobin A1C, there will be fewer people with amputations. And then we will have a serious problem with those people who say prosthetics. I once visited a Latin American country where they sat me down to tell them how they could work as primary care physicians in order to make significant changes. Sitting beside me was the one who sold the most dialysis machines and fluids, and the one who sold the most prosthetics. Well, I had to leave the meeting immediately because what I told them was like a torpedo. Their financial interests demanded that things remain the same, no change. Let's go back to the initial question. What can I do in the face of so much pain and suffering? Even today, at my age, I have many questions, just like anyone else. However, at home, from my family, I learned the guiding principle that has motivated all my actions. Don't wait for others to do what you can do.